Welcome back to the next video in this series about the development process and how Advantage EG can assist. The first step is to identify the permitted uses for your property as indicated in the town's official plan, which details population growth, the protection of the environment, the use and management of resources, infrastructure development, public health and safety, and land use. Whether in rural or urban areas, every parcel of land is designated for specific uses. Some lands are intended for residential use, while others are intended for commercial or employment uses. For example, within each land use designation, there are a number of zones, each with their own set of rules to define how that land can be used or developed. From the height of buildings, to parking requirements, to where structures can be located relative to your property line. This is done to ensure that developments are logical, cohesive, and do not adversely affect surrounding properties. In a residential zone, there are homes for families and individuals. Whereas in a commercial zone, there are retailers or services like a dental clinic. In an employment zone, there can be a greater concentration of industrial businesses. And there are zones reserved for agricultural uses, ones intended for recreational uses like parks, and zones dedicated to preserving the environment. One of the first steps in a construction or expansion project is to understand what the zoning does or doesn't permit. That said, the Planning Act recognizes that zoning bylaws can't foresee every potential future land use. Sometimes new uses are requested that historically were not considered. Yet in today's world, the request may be seen as compatible and appropriate by the municipality. When this happens, there's a process to make changes or adjustments to your land zoning to allow for these new uses. You can apply for an amendment to the zoning bylaw. With an application form and the appropriate studies and plans, town staff reviews and assesses how best to accommodate your project's needs. Town planning staff can help determine whether your change is minor, like a small reduction in required setbacks, or something more substantial. If your change request is minor, a committee appointed by Town Council, known as the Committee of Adjustment, reviews the minor variance request and any public input received and renders a decision. When you have a substantial change request, it's possible to apply for a full zoning bylaw amendment. This requires appropriate studies to determine the impact of the proposed change. It also requires public consultation to ensure the request is compatible with the needs of the community. Ultimately, the decision to approve a zoning bylaw amendment application is made by Town Council. When it's confirmed that your plan adheres to either the existing zoning bylaws or the minor variance or zoning bylaw amendment is approved, you're ready to move on to your site plan. And once again, Advantage EG is there to assist you. While they're helpful at the outset of your project, they're also there to provide support throughout the process, so don't forget to check in as you go along. Watch the next video in this series to learn more about the site plan application.